Alright chaps, what a weekend of football we've just had in the Championship. All 12 matches will be discussed in today's video, and if you went to any of these games over the weekend, drop your thoughts on them in the comments down below. I've been absolutely loving the start to this Championship season, whether that's just because Preston have been doing quite well, but I just love the unpredictability of it so far. But like I say, loads to go through in today's video, let's just jump in. So starting out on Friday night, we had Derby against Bristol City playing out a 1-1 draw. Derby finally getting some points on the board, which they'll absolutely take in this one. Now, from a Bristol City perspective, I thought they played this one almost like the perfect away game until Derby got back into the game. Scott Twine with another goal took that one really well, and at 1-0, Bristol City did have some decent chances to go 2-0 up in the second half especially, where I think it was Sinclair Armstrong had a decent chance to make it to Mehmeti as well. The only question you'd have with Bristol City is, do they have that strength in depth at the top end of the pitch to try and make that difference? You know, if an Emile Reece isn't quite on it, or anyone else in the starting 11, do they have those game-changing players to come from the bench? I'm not sure. From a Derby perspective, I mean, you can always bank on Carlton Morris scoring. It's been an absolutely terrific start to the season for him, hasn't it? Overall, in this game, Derby didn't create tons of chances. We can see here their shot map. Only 5 shots all night. I thought Bristol City did quite a good job, actually, to limit them to quite few opportunities, but Morris takes his chance when it comes along. I just think Derby want points on the board at this stage, don't they? So they'll absolutely take that against a decent Bristol City side. After that, into the Saturday early kickoffs, we had Leicester bouncing back with a 1-0 win away at Charlton. A big win for Leicester, but I'm not quite sure how Charlton lost this game, to be honest with you. They were causing Leicester all sorts of problems, and it probably speaks volumes about this game that the Leicester goalkeeper, Stolasic here, was so highly rated. 6 saves he made throughout this one. Charlton were throwing all sorts at him, weren't they? They were looking especially dangerous from set-piece situations, long throws, balls coming into the box. And on another day, not only could have got a point from this one, Charlton, but I think could have won it. I mean, we can see here by the XG, 1.63 for Charlton. 2 big chances and 20 shots all afternoon compared to Leicester, who didn't quite manage that amount of chances. But ultimately, and we said this in the preview to this game, even if just one of these forwards is on their game for Leicester, they're capable of turning the match like that. And it was a great strike from Fatawu, who I thought was pretty poor last time out against North End, very wasteful. He got into some decent opportunities last time against North End, looking to cut inside onto his left foot, but his final product just wasn't there. He was constantly blazing those shots over the crossbar, but got his chance in this game, cuts inside, and it just was a trademark finish that Kaminski ultimately can't do much about. Credit to Leicester though, defensively, a lot better for this one than they were against North End, but they'd have quite a bit to owe to Stolasic for this one, for keeping Charlton at bay. From a Charlton perspective, I wouldn't be too disheartened by this one. I thought it was a really competitive performance, and on another day could have easily got something, if not all 3 points. They did have the ball in the back of the net, Charlton, at one stage, didn't they? But that one was ruled out for a foul in the build-up. But good win for Leicester, because the Valley won't be an easy place to go to this season. After that, we had Blackburn bouncing back in style with a thumping 3-0 win away at Hull. Now, up until Blackburn, I mean, first sort of 15 minutes of this one maybe, Hull had a couple of opportunities to take the lead in this one, but as soon as Blackburn opened the scoring, really well worked goal, by the way, that Hedges scored, wasn't it? It was a dink over the goalkeeper, and from that point onwards, it was really only sort of one-way traffic for Blackburn. I mean, an XG of 3 in this one compared to 0.5 for Hull. Second half especially was just all one-way traffic for Blackburn. Hull created virtually nothing in that second half, and this was a bit of a concerning performance from Hull. I'm not going to lie, it's been a bit of a mixed bag here this start to the season for the Tigers, hasn't it? A draw, win, and now this loss. I do think defensively, without Charlie Hughes and without Semi Ajayi, lose the base of your defence there, and I think Blackburn were always going to sort of capitalise on that, especially when you have 2 fullbacks here in Giles and Drama who, you know, want to push forward and bomb on. They're not necessarily known as being defensively minded fullbacks, are they? So when you've got your secondary centre halves in there, this defensive setup from Hull does concern me a little bit. But full credit to Blackburn for this one, because they've not had an easy start to the season. Games against West Brom and Birmingham to start the campaign. Back-to-back losses in those 2 games, but I don't think performance-wise they were maybe as bad as those results would suggest. Cantwell, absolutely fantastic. He took his goal really well and had a role to play in the second goal that Blackburn scored, a clever taken free kick. So yeah, back to front, much more like it from Rovers there. From a Hull perspective, that back line without a Giant Hughes does concern me a bit, I'm not going to lie. And then the last of the 12:30 kickoffs we had on Saturday saw Swansea playing out a 1-1 draw with Watford. Had a feeling that this one would be fairly low scoring. I had it predicted down for a 1-0 Swansea win, but it was Watford who took the lead in this one. An absolutely superbly taken free kick by Irankunda, and I think he's going to be one of my favourite players to watch in the Championship this season. He's absolutely rapid, low centre of gravity, brilliant technical ability, and when you're capable of putting it in the top bins from a free kick like he did in this one, I think he's going to be a real fan favourite for Watford fans this season. From a Watford perspective, I think a point, all things considered, away at Swansea is a decent result in this one, especially being without Imran Louza, who's obviously such an integral player in how they build up the play. So missing his presence in midfield today, but still had that quality from Irankunda to take the lead. Second half was much more like it from Swansea. We can see by the momentum bar here that they were really pushing for that equaliser, and ultimately it was Zan Vapotnik with a nice header to get Swansea back into it. All three of Swansea's league matches so far this season have been fairly tight and low marginal. The XG for and against always seems to be really low in Swansea matches so far, so they never tend to give much away to the opposition, but equally haven't been massively creative themselves so far. But a decent point, I think, for both sides in this one. I know that Irankunda did go off with a bit of a strain in the second half, didn't he? So hopefully that's nothing too serious there, because yeah, really excited to see more from him this season. After that, we head to St Andrews for Birmingham 1, Oxford United 0. A good win for Birmingham here, maybe not as comfortable as a few people had predicted, but 3 points on the board nonetheless, and ultimately I think we got the sort of game that we expected from this one. Oxford came being very defensive, obviously in this 5-4-1 formation. It was Birmingham's job to try and break them down, and getting that goal on the stroke of half-time was quite big for them. We can see by the average positions here just how deep Oxford actually played for this game. Majority of their squad rooted quite fairly deep into their own half, and Birmingham obviously being a lot more adventurous. Oxford, in fairness, did craft out a few opportunities where on another day could have snatched something and maybe got a point, but it's 3 defeats from 3 for Oxford. Looking at the upcoming fixture list for them as well, it's not an easy run of games that they've got coming up. They've got games against Coventry, Leicester and Bristol City. So those next 3, yeah, aren't looking amazing on paper, but the next 2 are at home, to be fair. So opportunities there for Oxford to get some points on the board. Biggest compliment we can give to Birmingham at the moment is that they're winning matches without playing amazingly, which I think is a good thing. Oxford were always going to make it very difficult for them, and ultimately that bit of quality that they had told for this one, didn't it? And then where do we even start with this one? Coventry 7, QPR 1. What a couple of weeks it's been for Coventry and Frank Lampard, coming off the back of putting 5 goals past Derby the other week. They come back to the CBS here and put 7 past QPR. Now, the XG numbers for this one are a little bit confusing because Cov only created an XG of 1.27, but I'm not quite sure how, to be honest with you. Like, you see where a lot of the goals come from. It wasn't like they were all pop shots or anything like that. Coventry worked some really good opportunities for this one, and I mean, they were absolutely ruthless. It felt like they scored a goal every time they went forward. Defensively, QPR were an absolute shambles for this one. They did play into a lot of the traps that were set for them by Coventry in this one, and I mean, that whole makeup of that starting 11 was really poor for this one, wasn't it? Walsh in goal didn't cover himself in glory. I thought he could have done better for a few of the goals in this one. That defensive partnership of Morrison and Cook, it feels like a bit of a League One backline, doesn't it? You know, Jimmy Dunn I really like, but he obviously had a really poor game in this one. And then the midfield 2 of Varane and Field just weren't allowed time to breathe from how ruthless Cov were in this one. So, yeah, really concerned by that QPR performance. I think in all 3 of their opening matches, they have looked very gettable defensively, and it doesn't feel like they've cracked the right balance right now between defence and attack. Only real positive from a QPR perspective was Richard Kone scoring that consolation goal, but don't want to take anything away from Coventry here, because this was a performance for the ages. You know, any Coventry fan that went to this game is going to remember this one for a long time coming. Rudoni, absolutely prolific. Hadji Wright, brilliant as well. Brandon Thomas Asante was probably Victor Torp with the pick of the goals. I think it was his second goal, wasn't it? Outside the box and just bends it into the top corner. Absolutely fantastic strike. And yeah, really liking the look of this Coventry forward line especially at the moment. I think the goals will be really well shared around this team, which I think is a positive. I think they are going to be an absolute nightmare to contain for the opposition, because who do you target to try and close down in this team? If you focus on the right hand side, someone from the opposite flank is going to get you. If you focus on Radoni, Hadji Wright can get you. Grimes and Torp together in midfield look really strong. Listen, Coventry will obviously have much bigger tests to come than Derby and QPR, but 12 goals scored across your last 2 league matches, that's just going to breed confidence, isn't it? After that, we head to Carrow Road for Norwich 1, Middlesbrough 2. It's been a flawless start to the season for Rob Edwards and Middlesbrough. 3 wins from 3, and I'm not sure a lot of people saw this coming. The preparation over the summer for Borough was less than ideal. They dilly-dallied with the decision whether or not to keep Carrick on for quite some time. Recruitment has obviously taken quite a while to get things moving in that department as well, but despite all those factors, Borough have been really good value in these opening 3 matches, and fixture-wise they've had some tough games to come through. Going away to Carrow Road is never easy, but 2 quick-fire goals before half-time were ultimately the difference for Borough in this one. Conway and Azaz taking their goals quite well, and it still feels like the same defensive vulnerabilities are there with this Norwich side this season. You know, they've had a bit of an overhaul in that department, but Kovacevic wasn't great for this one. Thought he could have done better, especially with the one where he's beaten at his near post. I think that was Azaz's goal, wasn't it? Then in the second half, Norwich's chances of getting back into this one were dealt a blow when Jacob Wright gets sent off for a bit of a rash challenge. They do get a consolation goal through Sargent at the end, but back to front was pretty poor from Norwich in this one. That's now 2 games at Carrow Road for the Canaries and 2 defeats. They obviously got the job done away at Fratton Park the other week when they won that one by 2-1, but even in that game gave away some big opportunities to Portsmouth, didn't they? So still think the overall balance of this squad isn't quite right at the moment, but from a Borough perspective, really good stuff there. Only 1 goal conceded in their opening 3 matches. Feels like they can hurt you from a few different angles as well. Morris and Hackney, really good pairing in midfield. So yeah, big thumbs up for Borough and Rob Edwards this weekend for sure. After that, we head to Deepdale for Preston 1, Ipswich Town 0. What a start to the season it's been for North End. Back-to-back wins at Deepdale for Paul Heckingbottom's side against Leicester and now Ipswich Town. Now this was much more of a backs against the wall sort of job for North End than it was against Leicester. You know, that game against Leicester, we created numerous opportunities and the result could have been much more comfortable. This one against Ipswich, I mean, they really had us penned back for the majority of this game. We take our chance when it comes though. It's a bit clumsy from Jacob Greaves in the box. Fouls Milutin Osmaic and he tucks away the penalty, and then after that point it pretty much was just Ipswich knocking it about our box. But full credit to North End, I think, in this one, because defensively, we seem to have an answer to everything that Ipswich threw at us in this match. I thought that all 3 of Gibson, Story and Hughes were absolutely fantastic for this one. McCann scrapping around in midfield, looking to break things up as well. Small and Valetin getting up and down the flanks to try and give us a bit of an outlet to get out of our own half. But yeah, I mean, you look at the average positions for this one. North End, we were deep because we were just penned so far back in by Ipswich. From an Ipswich perspective, I thought they were better than Leicester last week. I thought we gave them a lot more respect in that regard. We really struggled to get out and they held on to the ball quite well. I mean, if we look at the possession stats here, yeah, 72% possession, Ipswich absolutely bossed it in that regard. But with that being said, I didn't think they created a great deal of high quality chances. Like the majority of their shots, they had 15 shots in total, were sort of pop shots from outside the box, and even some of the chances that they had from inside the box, they didn't cause Daniel Everson a great deal of strain. Like, I can't remember Everson making a big save in this game whatsoever, and for all the attacking quality that Ipswich had on the pitch, that was a bit disappointing, really. You know, Clark, Philogene, Smolix, Hurst, none of them really clicked into gear for this one, and it felt like North End always had an answer to what they were going to do. I thought they'd look threatening from set pieces, corners especially coming in, where Everson had to sort of flap and punch a few of them away, but other than that and from open play, wasn't a great deal from this Ipswich squad, albeit North End made it very difficult for them with how deep we played for this one. But great result there for North End. 7 points from our first 3 matches, considering how difficult our fixture list has been to start this season, is absolutely nothing to be sniffed at. For Ipswich and for all 3 of the parachute teams so far this season, none of them have really quite clicked into gear so far, have they? I still fancy Ipswich to come good eventually. I just think there's too much quality in this squad for that not to happen. Overall, though, was not blown away by them here. Oh, and things are just going from bad to worse for Sheffield United and Ruben Sellers, aren't they? Millwall winning this one 1-0. I did have it predicted for a 1-0, and really well taken goal, it has to be said, by Kundal. Ivanovic, in the build-up to this one, just pokes it through that Sheffield United back line. Kundal runs onto it and finishes quite well. I do think it's easy to get sucked into the narrative of, you know, Sheff United losing all 3 of their opening matches and how shaky they've looked at times of the season. But just taking this game in isolation, on another day, Sheff United could have very easily picked up a point from this one. Like, second half especially, they had some really good chances to get back into this one. The XG numbers between both sides are fairly similar, and I think that a point probably would have been a fair result. Like, Gus Hamer had a really good chance in the second half that was well saved by Bender. I think it was Harrison Burrows who hit the post towards the end as well. On another day, that sneaks in and it's a different result, isn't it? But Millwall away from home under Alex Neil are such a tough nut to crack. They've had such an amazing record in away matches since Neil came in, averaging around about 1.5 points per game. And also worth taking into consideration, there was no Jeff Tanganga for this game either, with him seemingly on his way to sign for Sheffield United. Now, I have seen Alex Neil's interview after this game, and he came out and said that Tanganga was happy to play, he wanted to play, and it was Neil's decision to sort of pull him out of this game because of all the speculation around him at the moment. But yeah, if you're in that Millwall away end, that result probably feels even sweeter with the whole Tanganga situation there, doesn't it? For Sheffield United, I mean, there were positives to take from that game as well, but you just look at this upcoming fixture list. Games against Middlesbrough, Ipswich, Charlton. They've got that game against Oxford, then they play Southampton. Like, where's this first win or first point coming from at the moment for Sheffield United? Less an ideal start for Sellers, who does feel like the most under pressure manager in the league right now. And it was another terrific result for Stoke City, who have gone away to Southampton and have won 2-1. Now, I think it's fair to say this was Stoke's biggest test of the season so far, obviously. Really impressed with them in their opening 2 matches, but could they go away to a parachute team like Southampton and walk away with all 3 points? Well, the answer is yes, and they've done so, playing the majority of that second half down to 10 men, which makes this one even more impressive. First half, while obviously both teams were level with 11 men, I thought that Stoke still had the edge in that one. They were looking like the more threatening side. Lewis Baker then gives them the lead, and you're thinking, oh, Stoke are really onto something here. But the moment Mbama gets sent off, and it's a bit of a silly one really, he tries to go around Bazunu and sort of throws himself to the ground, doesn't he? Gets a second yellow card for diving. And ultimately, that's probably something that you just get from, you know, young strikers still learning. I have overall been really impressed with him so far, and I think this is probably something that he'll learn from. But Stoke being down to 10 men against a side like Southampton, who you're back from that point onwards to just dominate the ball and pepper that Stoke goal with chances. Stoke then go 2-0 up, and it's an absolutely brilliant goal. One of my favourites of the weekend so far. Victor Johansson launching the ball upfield with a ginormous throw to Sorba Thomas, who latches onto it and then takes the goal really well. Now the second goalkeeper this season to register an assist after Preston's Daniel Everson. Southampton threatened to get back into it with a goal from a set piece, Taylor Harwood-Bellis with a crashing header, but Stoke managed to hold out for all 3 points. So really impressive stuff from Stoke there. Once again, from a Southampton perspective though, and we've said this with all the parachute teams so far, doesn't feel like any of them have really clicked into gear. Obviously, Southampton had that dramatic win on the opening day against Wrexham. Against Ipswich, weren't brilliant, but still got a point, and now this loss here against Stoke. Still feel like we could get quite a bit of change with this 11 with Southampton as well between now and the end of the window, but let's wait and see. At the Hawthorns, we saw West Brom playing at a 1-1 draw with Portsmouth. Overall, point maybe the fair result here. Both teams had chances and both teams took their goals really well. Mikey Johnson with a smashing strike to give West Brom the lead, but a terrific equaliser in the second half from Pompey. Josh Murphy running down this left-hand side, puts that ball beautifully into the box, and then Colby Bishop with a brilliant header to beat Griffiths. The controversy around this game does come in the second half though, where West Brom were denied a bit of a stonewall penalty, weren't they? Ryan Mason obviously wasn't happy about it. He was sent off for his reaction to the Baggies not being awarded the penalty, and Portsmouth are obviously able to hold out for the draw from that point onwards. From that perspective, a frustrating one when a key decision goes against you. From a West Brom perspective, but from a Pompey perspective, I thought they gave a decent account of themselves here, and 2 away matches now for Portsmouth, a win on the road against Oxford and a draw against West Brom. Considering that was their weakness last season, their away form, I think they've done a pretty good job in rectifying that in their opening 2 away matches. And then who on earth saw this one coming? We had Wrexham playing at a 2-2 draw with Sheffield Wednesday. Wednesday with their first points on the board. Now, first half of this game I thought played out like a lot of people expected. Wrexham looking like the dominant force, Kiefer Moore with a brace. They're 2 goals up within 31 minutes, and from that point onwards, I think a lot of people are expecting Wrexham to cruise to all 3 points. But the second half, the momentum of this game completely switched, and I'm not going to lie, this is one of the areas where I am a little bit concerned about Phil Parkinson and his long-term prospects at Wrexham, because tactically, I think they got this one completely wrong in the second half, trying to just sit on that 2-goal lead, soak up pressure from Sheffield Wednesday, and really in this second half, you know, it was all one-way traffic for Wednesday. They had 16 shots, created 3 big chances, an XG of 2.17. Very easily could have gone to win this game as well. They had a glorious opportunity near the end, but Danny Ward managed to keep it at 2-2. I get that approach if you're playing a side that you have inferior quality to. Like if Wrexham were playing Ipswich this weekend and they were 2 goals up and decided to shut up shop and try and keep it tight in the second half, I totally get that approach. But obviously no disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday, but the quality of players that Wrexham have signed this summer, you've got too much going forward here to try and soak up pressure and sit back. And I know that Parkinson will obviously want to make them defensively resolute, but I just think they got that one totally wrong. But full credit to Sheffield Wednesday, carry on plugging away in this game. It was obviously Bannon that got them back into it, and then, like I say, they did have a good opportunity to go on and win this game, Wednesday, who I think have surprised a few people by just how competitive they've been so far. Obviously no Charles in net for this one, he's out injured, so they've had to draft in Ethan Horvath, who didn't have a great game, I think it's worth saying, but despite everything going against them, there still seems to be a good core and spirit and mentality within this Sheffield Wednesday group. And for Wrexham, yeah, defensively, I think we've all still got those questions about them. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. A bonkers weekend of Championship action, all things considered. If you went to any of these games this weekend, do let me know your thoughts on them in the comments down below. Apart from that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.